Jung's most dangerous discovery about the mask was not that we wear one. It was that there is no moment we can point to where we first put it on. There is no such moment. He calls the thing you are hunting the persona, a compromise between you and what the room accepts, never chosen and never issued on a particular afternoon you could go back and find. You have run your own version of the search. You have gone backward through the pictures, looking for one frame where your face is only a face, and something under your ribs goes cold when it collapses again. You have spent years hunting the day that made you this. Those years are gone, so here is the binary this video is built to hand you. Either this becomes a lifetime of digging for a birthday nobody issued, or it ends the digging today. Not by finding the moment, but by understanding why the moment was never available, and what that failure is actually proof of. By the end you will know why the album has no first photograph, who was holding the camera and what they poured into every frame, why the moment was never issued, and how to tell whose face you are wearing right now. Some nights the screen is the wrong place for this. If you'd rather just listen, Surreal Mind is on Spotify now. The words, in the dark, wherever you are, links in the description. Take one person out of the many who run this search. Thomas is 34, 8 months into fatherhood, at it again on a Tuesday in April. 2 albums are open on the table. His is thick and yellowing. His daughter's is thin, almost nothing in it yet. The corner of his own hospital photograph is furred now, soft from handling. He has taken it out and put it back too many times. He is looking for one photograph, the one where his face is only a face. Nothing arranged, nothing prepared. He does not find it. What makes the search strange is that the photographs are all there. In every one, at every age he can reach, something is already happening around the eyes and the mouth. It was not happening a second before the shutter clicked, and it stops a second after. A tiny adjustment, arriving and leaving with the shutter. He keeps going back, hoping it thins the younger he gets. It does not thin out. In the earliest frame anyone kept, an infant hours old, something in the face has already leaned faintly toward being seen a certain way. Here is the verification beat, and it is the hinge of everything that follows. The light is not playing a trick on him. This is not a grieving man reading meaning into grain. Jung has a name for exactly what Thomas is looking at, and it is a real structure, not a projection. He is looking at the persona. Jung describes it as a mask assembled to make a definite impression on others, and to conceal the true nature of the individual. And he is looking at it far too late to catch it arriving, because arriving is the wrong word for what it did. The mask was assembled the way a language is assembled, out of thousands of exchanges too early and too small to leave individual memories behind. Therefore, there is no frame in the album from before it. The phenomenon is real, it is verified, and it is permanently out of reach at the same time. You might assume this is a strictly Jungian idea, a piece of mid-century theory. It is not. It was independently confirmed by one of the most respected clinicians of the 20th century. The British psychoanalyst Donald Winnicott, working decades after Jung, and from an entirely different school, arrived at the same flaw. He described what he called the false self, a compliant surface the infant builds before it has language in response to what the people around it need it to be. Winnicott's finding is that this begins in the first months of life, in the earliest exchanges between an infant and its caregivers, long before there is a self that could remember building anything. 2 clinicians who never worked together, from 2 different traditions, both landed on a self assembled before memory begins. Therefore, the thing you cannot find in your own album is not a personal failing of yours. It is a documented feature of how a human being is made. and both men warned about the same trap waiting inside that mask. Winnicott traced the false self along a whole spectrum. At one end, ordinary social politeness, the version everyone runs and nobody suffers from. At the other end, a state where the false self swallows the real one completely, and a person starts to feel unreal, empty, like they are faking their own life. Jung named the same danger from his own side. He warned that a person can identify so completely with the persona that they take the mask for themselves, believing they simply are the job title, the polite exterior, the steady face. That is the step that should make you feel specifically seen rather than filed under a common label. The mask does not merely form early. It becomes the thing you get mistaken for by other people and eventually by yourself. That severe version, the persona wearing you until there is no seam left to feel, is the condition this video is actually about. So start where the mechanism is close enough to feel. There is a thing your face does in the half second before you walk into a room. Your jaw resets. Your eyes pick a setting. All of it ahead of any decision you make. You have felt it land 1,000 times and never once caught it starting. Picture the room you grew up in. Before you could talk, you were already reading it. Which face came through the front door meant something. Which tone meant the room was safe to be loud in, and which meant to make yourself small. None of it arrived as instruction. You absorbed it continuously and invisibly, with no single exposure standing out enough to remember. Jung is specific about this, and it reframes the entire search. He does not think children are shaped mainly by what their parents say to them. He thinks they are shaped by what their parents are quietly not living, the ambition abandoned, the grief that never finished, the anger that never got a sentence. All of it settling into the atmosphere of a house and landing on the nearest available child. You were not only raised, you were recruited, quietly enlisted to carry forward whatever the adults around you could not carry themselves. Take one afternoon out of the 10,000. You are 5, maybe 6. Somebody gives you a present you did not want, and your face does the wrong thing for half a second. You watch an adult's shoulders go up, then you fix it. You produce delight from somewhere. The shoulders come back down, and the room resumes. Nothing is said. Nothing gets remembered. And you have just been taught, with total precision, that your face is a lever that moves other people. You will keep pulling it for 40 years. That is the manufacturing process, and it explains why there is no photograph of the moment before it. There was no moment. No single half-second look could produce a mask. 10,000 of them, repeated with the numbing consistency of ordinary life, absolutely could, and you were not old enough to read the contract. Jung's work on psychological types describes a child's consciousness before it consolidates into a stable, reflecting ego. There was, in the strictest sense, no self yet assembled enough to refuse. Name the core paradox, because every version of this search dies on it. Call it the Jung-issued moment. The Jung-issued moment is this. The exact instant you are hunting for is the one instant that, by definition, could never have been recorded, because there was no you yet standing outside the process to notice it happening. The thing that would let you find the origin, a separate watching self, is the very thing that had not been built yet when the origin occurred. The search fails for one plain reason. There was no you standing outside the process when the event happened, so nothing recorded it, and nothing could have, and the mechanism does not begin with you, which is the part that lifts the blame off your own shoulders. Follow it back one step, and it arrives at whoever was holding the camera. Whatever got poured into you unfinished was poured into them the same way. by people holding their own cameras, decades before you existed. Jung describes the family atmosphere itself as the medium. Each generation absorbs what the one before it could not resolve, then passes the remainder forward, unsigned. Because the persona is inherited down a line neither end of which can see the beginning. Therefore, hunting for your personal origin point is like hunting for the first speaker of a language. Once you accept that the persona is a compromise negotiated with an audience, the useful question stops being when it started and becomes who it was built for, and the audience is sort into three kinds. Every face you put on answers to one of them. Type 1 is the living audience. This is the current, reasonable one. A boss in the room right now, a partner across the table tonight, a customer you actually need. The face built for a living audience is a tool. You can name who it is for, the person exists, and the performance ends when they leave. This is the healthiest kind of mask, and Jung never asks you to give it up. Type 2 is the departed audience. This is the face built for someone who is no longer in the room, and in some cases no longer alive. The parent who has been dead 11 years and still gets a certain tone of voice out of you at every holiday. The teacher who humiliated you at 14, whose approval your professional voice is still quietly chasing. The departed audience is the one that costs you the most, because you are still paying a debt to a creditor who left decades ago and cannot collect. Type 3 is the inherited audience. This is the face you never built at all, the one handed down the line from movement 4, running on someone else's momentum. It was assembled for a room your mother stood in, or her father did, and it arrived in you pre-installed. You cannot name its audience because you never met them. This is the face that feels the most like just who I am, precisely because there is no memory of acquiring it. So which one runs your oldest face? The living, the departed, or the inherited? Sit with it for a second before we go on, because the answer changes what the rest of this video is for. If a type just landed harder than the others, drop it in the comments in one word: living, departed, or inherited. Nothing after it. It is worth seeing which one this room is carrying most. Leave the persona unexamined and it does real damage in 3 escalating ways. They get worse as they go. Danger 1 is the search with no flaw. You go looking for the moment, you fail to find it, and every year you fail, you quietly conclude the damage must be buried deeper than you thought. The failure becomes the evidence. The evidence justifies more searching. A hunt like that can run for a decade on nothing, and it converts a wound into a defect without ever announcing the conversion. Other people seem to have their moment, the exact night, the exact sentence, and you begin to suspect that either you are a bad witness to your own life, or nothing bad enough ever happened, and this is simply how you are. That second suspicion is by far the heavier one. Danger 2 is that the search bills you twice. Every hour at the album is an hour the people currently in your house did not get. The archaeology of your own past is not free time. It is subtracted directly from the present, from the exact relationships the persona is supposedly protecting. Danger 3 is the most existential, and it is the one almost nobody checks for, because it wears the one expression that looks like health. It is the mask that has convinced you it is not a mask. Once you decide you have stopped performing entirely, you lose the ability to feel the edge of the face you are still wearing. Correction starts registering as an attack. Someone tells you that you were sharp at dinner, and what reaches you is an attempt to put the mask back on. So you defend yourself warmly, reasonably, at length, and the person learns not to raise it again. Run that for 2 years, and nothing true can get through to you at all. This goes well past ordinary social discomfort. You have quietly lost the one instrument that tells you who you are. We are going to spend a whole movement on it, because it is the face that will give you the most trouble. Jung's answer is quieter than either the treasure hunt or the transcendence, and more useful for it. He treats the persona as a tool, because Jung describes the persona as a whole system of relations between your consciousness and the society around you, a working necessity for living among other people. Therefore, the task is never to destroy it. The task is a practice, and it breaks into exactly 3 steps. Call the whole thing naming the audience. Step 1, catch the face coming on, not after, not in the evening replay, but in the half-second before you enter the room, when the jaw resets and the eyes pick their setting. You already know that sensation. Step 1 is only learning to notice it in real time instead of hours later. Step 2, say who the audience is out loud. Out loud matters here because a thought can stay vague and a spoken sentence cannot. At the family dinner, where you go quiet and agreeable the way you did at 8, say who that quiet was built for. At work, when the confident voice comes out, say who is being reassured by it. Some of the answers will be a living audience, current and reasonable. Some will be a person who has been dead for 11 years. Step 3, wear it on purpose, knowing whose it is. Naming the audience does not get you out of the room and does not remove the mask. It changes what you are doing while you are in it. You stop being a person who cannot help it. You become a person who has decided this particular afternoon that the light voice is worth what it costs at your mother's table, and who will decide it again next Sunday. The face stops being something that happens to you. It becomes a choice you can be held to. Here is the one literally actionable instruction, the thing to do this week. Pick the single room where the oldest face comes on, your parents' kitchen, a particular colleague's office, the friend you have been performing steadiness for since you were 19. Before you go in, stand outside it and say who that face was built for. Then go in wearing it on purpose. You will feel the difference before the visit is over. The room carries on exactly as it did, which is how you know it worked. 2 people can hold the same trait and end in opposite places. Watch the same persona run in 2 directions. Take Daniel first, the failure case. Daniel did the reading. He understood that the mask forms early and runs deep, and somewhere in that understanding, he decided he had finished the work. That he, unlike everyone around him, now simply says what he means and shows what he feels. What you see is exactly what he is. He says it often, and it feels to him like a finish line he has earned. But Daniel has only built a new persona out of the claim to have none, negotiated with an audience that pays well for the look of having transcended masks. He cannot feel its edge anymore. When his wife tells him he was cold, he explains, kindly and at length, why she has misread him. She has stopped raising it. Daniel got exactly the isolation he thought he was escaping, and he got it while feeling more honest than ever. Now Thomas, the success case, working from the same starting material. Thomas also stopped searching, but instead of concluding he had transcended the mask, he concluded there was no origin to find and turned toward the present. He does not claim to be maskless. He assumes he is wearing one at all times and spends his attention on naming which. When his wife says something about his tone, he can actually hear it, because he never staked his identity on having no tone to correct. The same insight sent the 2 men opposite ways. One used it to stop checking. The other used it to check better. The difference was not effort, and it was not intelligence, because the same understanding can license either permanent blindness or permanent attention. Therefore, the reframe this video offers is not automatic. It depends entirely on what you do with it, which is exactly why it can be a choice you are held to rather than a fact about you. Jung did not theorize this from a safe distance. He ran the same search on himself, and he failed it too, which is the thing that turns him from a lecturer into a fellow sufferer. In his own memoir, Jung describes a boyhood game on a garden stone. He is sitting on this stone. Then the thought comes. The stone might say, I. Sitting there, he understands there might be two of him, and he later names them personality number 1 and personality number 2. And here is the detail that matters for you. By the time young Jung can see the second self at all, it gives every sign of having been running a good while already. He is old enough to walk to that garden alone, old enough to sit and think, old enough by any reasonable measure to have been wearing a working persona for years. So take the memory for exactly what it records. A recognition, arriving on one specific afternoon, of something that had plainly been there long before. A man who would go on to build an entire discipline out of watching his own mind still arrived after the fact. Because even Jung, the single person best equipped in history to catch his own persona forming, could only ever catch it already formed. Therefore, what are you expecting to find at 3 a.m. that he could not find in a lifetime of looking? The flaw you are digging for is one he never reached either. Naming the audience is not a plan to go maskless. It is a plan to keep the right masks consciously. There are 3 domains where the persona is load-bearing, where you keep it on purpose rather than trying to strip it off, and each one has a line you can actually use. In the professional domain, you keep the voice that carries a room through a bad quarter. Name the audience. This steadiness is for the 8 people who need someone to look calm right now. Then wear it deliberately. That is not fakery. It is how a room gets led through a hard week. In the difficult family domain, you keep the patient tone with the relative who has never once earned it. Name the audience out loud in the driveway before you go in. This one is for my mother, and it is at least 30 years old. Then use it knowingly. The face does the same work. You are simply no longer its servant. In the communal domain, you keep the composed face at a funeral, so the room has one steady person standing in it. Name that audience too. This composure is a gift to everyone who cannot hold theirs today, and it stops being suppression and becomes service. And here is the numbered protocol that runs across all 3. First, notice which domain you are in. Second, say who the face is for, and be honest about whether that audience is alive and in the room, or a departed one who left years ago. Third, decide, this once, whether the face is worth its cost here, knowing you will decide again next time. That is the whole method. It is not a journaling exercise you do alone at night. It happens live, in the room, with the audience still watching. Jung also insisted the mask has a season, and the whole arc moves through 4 stages as that season turns. Because Jung describes the first half of life as the work of building a place in the world, getting the job, holding the marriage, becoming someone a community can lean on. Therefore, in that season, the persona is not a problem. It is the tool you build the place with. The cost arrives only when a face built for the morning is still worn, unquestioned, late in the afternoon, and Jung marks that turn as the inward one, the point where attention is meant to move from the world back toward the self. Stage 1 is recognition. You accept there was no moment, and the search closes. Stage 2 is naming. You begin saying the audience out loud, in one room, this week. Stage 3 is keeping. You wear the load-bearing faces consciously, as choices rather than reflexes, across enough ordinary weeks that it becomes a habit. Stage 4 is inheritance, the widest lens, and the one that turns this from self-help into something you hand down. Repeated across enough ordinary mornings, this habit is what Jung means by individuation. The mask itself never comes off. What changes is your relationship to it. And the person who reaches stage 4 does not pass a clean face to the next generation. Nobody can. What they pass down is rarer. A face plus the sentence that names it. 4 ways people take this insight and regress. Watch for all of them in yourself, because they are subtle and they arrive dressed as progress. Pitfall 1. Intensifying the search instead of ending it. The moment you learn there was no single origin, the tempting move is to conclude the origin must simply be deeper and to dig harder. The correct response to a search with no flaw is to stop digging, not to buy a longer shovel. Pitfall 2. Relocating the blame onto one person. Once the mechanism is visible, it becomes tempting to pin it on a specific parent and call that progress. It is not much progress. Whatever got poured into them was poured in the same wordless way, and there is no confrontation available for an atmosphere, no apology to be handed back by people who never knew they were giving it. That is a grief with no ceremony attached, and waiting for the hearing that will never be scheduled costs you years. Pitfall 3, and the most dangerous. Identifying with the maskless pose. Jung puts it about as plainly as he ever puts anything. The persona is what you get taken for, by yourself, as much as by everyone else. So, I have no persona is itself a persona, and being certain you have nothing left to hide is a self-image like any other. Jung has a name for mistaking one part of the psyche for the whole of it. He calls it inflation, and it does not need grandeur to operate. A quiet certainty that this particular face is simply who you are will do the work on its own. It shows up as a missing sensation. You reach the end of a long evening and feel nothing in your face, no strain in the jaw, no release when the door shuts, and you take that as proof nothing was performed. But a face can register as nothing for a second reason. You have worn it so long you have stopped feeling its weight, the way you stop feeling your glasses an hour after putting them on. They are still on your face. If that sentence went through you, if some part of you has quietly announced it stopped performing years ago, put it in the comments exactly as it stands. I have been performing, not performing. 6 words, nothing after them. Pitfall 4. Weaponizing the practice into a performance of its own. This is Daniel's error made active. Narrating your own honesty out loud, arranging your features into openness before you walk in so that others will see openness, which is the exact arranging you swore you had stopped. Performing being unperformed is still performing. The tell is that you have stopped keeping track of which face is on duty, and you stopped because you believed you had retired them all. Widen the lens all the way out, because this is not only your problem or Thomas's, it is the shape of an entire inheritance. The honest picture is a long, unbroken line, everyone in it both recruited and recruiting. Each generation absorbs what the one before it could not resolve, then passes the remainder forward, unsigned. You are standing somewhere in that line, holding a mask you did not design, and so was everyone who ever handed one down. Seen from far enough back, the search for a personal origin point is almost comic. You are looking for the first link in a chain that has no first link. And the culture you are standing in right now has invented a new turn of the screw. This is the first era to sell masklessness itself as a product, to build entire economies on the performance of authenticity, the carefully lit candor, the confession staged for an audience. Jung's warning lands harder now than when he wrote it. The face that announces it is not a face, has become the most common face of all, and it is the one nobody thinks to check. What was once a private trap has become a public industry. Which is exactly why the small, unglamorous practice of naming the audience, one room, one sentence, said out loud, is quietly radical. It is the one move the whole performance economy cannot sell you, because it costs nothing and produces no image. Thomas goes back through his own album one last time, on a Thursday morning, all the way down to the third corner of the hospital photograph. Still nothing, no frame of his face before it learned to do that. What is different is that he closes the album without the usual weight in his chest. A question with no answer stops being a wound the moment you stop treating it as a failure of memory. His daughter is on the kitchen floor, sitting up, absorbed in the strap of a bag, not looking at anything human. Thomas picks up his phone, opens the camera, and does not say her name. Every instinct says to say it. The name turns the head, the turned head gives the arranged face, and that face is the photograph everyone in his family has ever taken. He has been on the receiving end of that call his whole life. So he holds the phone, lets a bag strap go on being more interesting than he is, and takes the picture of a child who does not know she is in one. He does not check it. He puts it face down on the table. It will not hold, and he knows it. His daughter will learn the camera. The mask is coming for her the way it came for everyone in the hallway of portraits behind him. But she will grow up with one person in the house who can name the audience out loud, which is an inheritance of an entirely different order. And now the turn this whole video has been walking toward. Everything until now has been Jung and Thomas and the patient at the table. Now it is you. You are not going to find your first photograph. It is not there, not misfiled, not buried, not waiting in a drawer to explain you. Nothing was lost, because nothing was ever there to lose. And you are not going to stop performing tomorrow either. The confident voice will show up at the meeting. The agreeable quiet will show up at your parents' table. Some days you will not catch either one until the house has gone quiet. That is not a failure on your part. It was never going to stop. The persona stays. What changes is how often you know whose it is, and knowing, repeated across enough ordinary mornings, is the closest thing to freedom on offer here. You are not broken because you cannot remember putting the mask on. You are simply finally old enough to choose when to wear it. So stop turning the pages backward, looking for the frame, before the face learned to do this. The archaeology is finished. You already did the digging for years, and it produced exactly one usable fact. There was never anything down there to find. Turn the camera the other way instead, toward whoever is in front of you right now, and take the picture before the arranging starts. Down in the comments, tell me which of the three runs your oldest face. The living audience, the departed audience, or the inherited one. Name the single person it was built for, no story attached, and if you can manage the whole sentence, type it exactly. I know whose face I am wearing today. It is worth seeing how many people are sitting in this same room. If these videos are quietly rearranging how you see yourself, that is the whole reason this channel exists. So stay for the next one. We are going to sit with Jung's shadow next, the part of you the persona was built to keep out of the frame entirely. Thank you for watching. See you in the next dimension. Empaths aren't broken. They're alchemists in progress. The Alchemist's Path gives you drills, Jung-based boundaries, and 3 exclusive chapter videos to turn overwhelm into clarity. By Surreal Mind, 236-page downloadable ebook in stock. Begin now at thesurrealmind.com.